First off, I just want to thank you for coming back to the Sip the Scoop channel. Joe Rogan just dropped a bomb, and people can't stop talking about it. He's calling out something seriously off about what's happening with Erika Kirk. Charlie Kirk's passing shocked the entire world, but now his wife Erika seems to be living like nothing happened, and that's got everyone raising eyebrows. She's smiling in new clips, stepping into his old CEO chair at Turning Point USA and getting a little too close with Vice President JD Vance. We're talking fingers through hair, tight hugs, and cozy moments that are setting social media on fire. People are asking the same question. Is this how a grieving widow behaves, or is there something way deeper going on? Joe Rogan thinks there's way more to this story than meets the eye, and the evidence he's pointing to is seriously wild. Let's rewind for a second. On September 10th, Charlie Kirk was shot during a Turning Point USA event, right there in front of thousands. Cameras were rolling. The entire country witnessed it. The founder of one of the most powerful conservative movements in America, gone in an instant. Naturally, you'd think his wife would disappear from the spotlight, grieving privately, focusing on her 2 kids, maybe avoiding interviews for a while, but nope, just days later, Erika Kirk was everywhere, giving speeches, taking full control of Turning Point USA, launching merch lines, and even hosting her late husband's podcast. And she wasn't sad or broken, she was beaming. That's exactly what Joe Rogan can't wrap his head around. On his show, he's been tearing into how strange this all looks, from the details of the shooting to Erika's sudden rise in power and those eyebrow-raising appearances with JD Vance. The timing, the body language, the PR moves, none of it adds up. Charlie Kirk wasn't just some random conservative voice. He was tight with Donald Trump himself. Trump even gave him the Medal of Freedom, one of the highest honors in America. That's how powerful Charlie's influence was. This man was at the center of the conservative movement, rubbing shoulders with the top players in politics. So when he was shot during a Turning Point USA event in a packed arena, it didn't just shock fans, it rocked the entire country. Cameras caught everything. Thousands watched in real time as chaos exploded on stage. It was tragic, horrifying, and left everyone demanding one thing: answers. But that's where things start getting really strange. The official story claims the shooter was a 21-year-old kid who used his grandfather's World War I rifle. Yeah, a weapon over 100 years old. Allegedly, this guy disassembled the antique gun, stuffed it in a backpack, climbed onto a rooftop, reassembled it piece by piece, and took the shot, all without security noticing? Seriously? That sounds like something out of a thriller movie, not real life. And just when you think it can't get any weirder, witnesses say another man at the scene started yelling, "I did it! I did it!" before randomly taking off his pants in front of everyone. Turns out, this same guy's face has popped up at other national tragedies, even 9/11 and the Boston Marathon bombing. Then, out of nowhere, he's arrested days later on child-related charges, and suddenly, poof, nobody's allowed to talk to him anymore. Joe Rogan is no stranger to wild theories. He's built a career digging into stories that don't quite add up. So when he started talking about the Charlie Kirk situation, people tuned in fast. And honestly, a lot of what he said actually makes sense. Once he broke it down on his podcast, it was clear he wasn't holding anything back. Let's start with that bizarre rifle story again. According to the official version, this 21-year-old supposedly took apart his grandfather's World War I rifle, stuffed the pieces into a backpack, climbed up to a rooftop, reassembled it, and then made the fatal shot. Sounds like an action movie, right? Joe Rogan's reaction, he literally said, "Shut the F up." And honestly, people agreed. On his show, Joe went deep into why that whole story doesn't make sense. He explained that taking apart and rebuilding a rifle, especially one that's over a century old, isn't easy work.
They said that he took it apart and then put it back together again. Shut the fuck up. Do you know how much time it would take to do that if you were highly skilled?
To disassemble a gun.
To disassemble a rifle so that you can get it in a backpack. And by the way, not gonna fit. Not gonna fit.
In a backpack.
And then somehow or another reconnects it once he gets off the roof.
You need serious gunsmith tools, he said. Allen wrenches, clamps, precision gear. It's not like putting together IKEA furniture. That line alone had the internet buzzing. Joe pointed out that even an expert shooter would need time, focus, and the right tools to pull something like that off. It would take me a lot longer than it supposedly took him, he admitted, laughing in disbelief. He compared it to a movie stunt, saying the only way it'd make sense is if this 21-year-old had been secretly training like John Wick for half a year. Now this next part is where things get completely wild. This is what really set Joe Rogan off during his breakdown, because it's so bizarre, it almost sounds made up. Right after Charlie Kirk was shot, chaos exploded everywhere. And in the middle of it all, this older man starts screaming, I did it, over and over again. And then, out of nowhere, he drops his pants right there in the crowd. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. It was pure confusion and panic. But the weirdness was only just beginning. Once the internet did some digging, things got way darker. People discovered that this exact same man had shown up at multiple major tragedies in American history. He was reportedly seen at 9/11, the Boston Marathon bombing, and even linked to a few fake bomb threats across the country. So what are the odds, right?
Of all, there was that one guy who was the decoy. All right, so you got this guy who's an older guy who starts yelling out. Didn't he take his pants down? He took his pants down. This guy was at 9/11. He was at the Boston bombing.
All the hits.
He called in a fake bomb at another place, and then he did this at this thing. Right after, so somehow or another, this guy has the state of mind that the moment someone gets shot, he yells out and says, I did it, and takes his pants down or something like that. I don't know exactly what he did. Then, ready for this? He gets arrested for child porn right away.
Right after this happened?
Oh, right away. He's in jail for child porn. Why is that? Well, now you can't interview.
Joe Rogan called it perfectly. He said, if someone ran the numbers through ChatGPT or something, the odds of that happening would be 0. That's when Joe threw out a theory that hit hard. He said this man might not just be crazy, he might be what Rogan called professionally insane, meaning someone could be using him, planting him at high-profile events as a distraction, a decoy meant to pull the cameras away from what's really going on. And here's where it gets even sketchier. Just days after the shooting, this man was arrested, but not for anything related to the attack. Nope. Authorities charged him for child-related crimes, and now he's behind bars. Which means nobody can interview him, nobody can ask who sent him, and nobody can figure out why he was there in the first place. Joe Rogan didn't stop there. He also tore into the question everyone's been asking. Could that 21-year-old actually make the shot? The official story claims he hit Charlie Kirk from nearly 200 yards away, lying flat on a rooftop, a perfect sniper-style hit. Now, Joe admitted that in theory, it's possible. With the right setup, the right rifle, and a bit of elite training, someone could land that shot. If a Navy SEAL coached you for an afternoon,
this story is horseshit. Like, none of these things make any sense to me. Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof, he shoots, he jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet.
Yeah, we saw didn't they have video of him jump? Somebody had a cell phone video.
you could probably pull it off, he said. But that's the only part that makes even a little sense. Everything else about this story is totally off. First off, that so-called rifle, it supposedly doesn't even fit inside a regular backpack. So how did this kid sneak it past security? And speaking of security, how does someone climb onto a roof in the middle of a major event without anyone noticing? Cameras everywhere, Secret Service level guards, and not one person saw it? Come on. Then there's the strange older guy screaming in the crowd, the unrelated arrest that followed, and all these random coincidences stacking up. Joe summed it up perfectly. He said this entire story is complete nonsense. He flat out said, none of these things make any sense to me. But then he dropped a line that really stuck with people. He said, if you want people to lose faith in the truth, just flood the story with nonsense, pile on a bunch of weird details so nobody can tell what's real anymore. Now let's get into the part that's got everyone whispering, Erika Kirk's behavior after Charlie's death, because honestly, the way she's been acting has people completely baffled. Sure, everyone grieves differently, no doubt about that. But the way Erika's been moving, it just doesn't sit right with a lot of folks. We're talking just days after her husband was shot in front of the entire world, and instead of retreating, crying, or staying low-key, she's out there smiling, glowing, doing interviews, posting polished videos, and giving speeches like nothing happened. One viral TikTok even said, this woman is not grieving anything. She skipped straight to acceptance. This is PR, and they're using your grief for marketing. Harsh words. But honestly, when you see the clips, it's hard not to understand why people are saying it. Erika doesn't look like someone fighting to hold it together. She looks confident, calm, almost too okay, and that's what's making people uneasy.
Our turning point was safe family, but I want you guys all to see the Medal of Freedom and be able to look at it in the back of it. This is all, you guys are all part of the legacy. So we put it in on the back. It's the first and last time I'll put a cross on it. Wow. But yeah, you guys can. I literally will stand here so all of you can like I'm not, I don't care. Everyone can have their moment and see.
Yeah, where's like Thank you.
Her energy is upbeat, her tone is polished, and she's already rebranding Turning Point USA with new merch drops, events, and smiling press photos. It's given public relations, not heartbreak. And yeah, it might sound petty, but viewers are even calling out her outfits. At memorials, instead of wearing classic morning colors or something simple, she's been showing up in bold designer fits, flashy jewelry, and full glam. One TikTok user said, "Who wears couture to a vigil?" And that comment alone exploded online. Okay, sure, maybe Erika's flashy look is just her personal style. Maybe she doesn't believe in the whole traditional mourning thing. But when you line that up with everything else going on, it's no wonder people are starting to ask questions.
Holy shit, they are trying to replace Usha Vance with Erika Kirk, because Erika Kirk and JD Vance is their Christian nationalist wet dream, and you won't convince me otherwise.
Here's where things really start to raise eyebrows. Instead of stepping back to grieve, Erika Kirk stepped way up. Within days of Charlie's death, she wasn't hiding from the public. She was commanding the stage. She became the new CEO of Turning Point USA, her late husband's empire, practically overnight. She gave 3 major speeches in her first week, one of them in a packed stadium full of cameras and flashing lights. And the most jaw-dropping detail, Charlie's own family didn't speak at any of those events, but Erika did. She's already hosting Charlie's podcast, launching new Turning Point merch, and selling t-shirts with his name on them. One viral comment summed it up perfectly. "Isn't it strange how the widow became CEO, gave 3 speeches, one in a stadium, while the family stayed silent and she's already selling shirts and running his podcast? The internet couldn't stop talking about it. And it doesn't stop there. She's even promoting an all-American halftime show now.
No one will ever replace my husband. No. But I do see some similarities of my husband in JD and Vice President JD Vance. I do. And that's why I'm so blessed to be able to introduce him tonight, because he understands the fight that we're up against. And he can articulate that in a way that transcends race, that transcends demographic backgrounds. He's an amazing man.
Booking big-name performers like nothing happened. Meanwhile, people can't help but notice she's not at home with her 2 young children who just lost their father in the most public, painful way possible. Think about that for a second. Your husband is murdered in front of the world, your kids are grieving, and instead of stepping back, you're back on stage with lights, applause, and sponsorship deals. It's hard for people to process. Then came the video that really gave everyone chills. Erika was filmed at the Turning Point USA offices, showing off the Presidential Medal of Freedom that Trump gave to Charlie, one of the last honors he ever received before he died. Now, you'd expect that moment to be emotional, maybe even heartbreaking, but no. Erika's smiling, laughing, and excitedly waving it around like it's a brand new designer bag. Erika's been out here talking like she's on a comeback tour, making bold statements about how excited she is for all the new content she's about to release. She's planning fresh projects, teasing big announcements, and even outlining the future of Turning Point USA like nothing just happened. And sure, people get that life goes on.
This is him when asked by a student about him and his wife's difference in their religious beliefs, and he ends it with this.
Do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way.
He wants her to fall in line. He wants her to be a Christian nationalist just like him. And if he can't convince her, he'll find a new one.
Companies need direction, organizations need leadership. But hold up, this is all happening days after her husband's assassination. That's what's really got people uneasy. When you put the timeline together, it's jarring, the tragedy happens, and within the same week, Erika's not only leading the company, but also teasing future content, giving speeches, and posting promo clips. It doesn't feel like someone grieving, it feels like someone managing a brand. And now comes the twist that's lighting social media on fire. Her sudden closeness with JD Vance, the vice president. Clips and photos of them together have been circulating everywhere, and the internet's going wild with speculation. The hugs, the whispers, the hand through the hair moments. Fans are saying it doesn't look like just friends. One viral TikTok summed it up in the most shocking way.
Anyone who's still buying this up because of Christian forgiveness needs to listen up. This is not strength, it's theater. Christians are not told to ignore evil. Forgiveness is not done in public like this. This is how they package a tragedy to make you feel good instead of asking real questions. They're using Christianity as a prop to make corruption look holy. They'll weaponize forgiveness because it keeps people quiet.
The creator said they're trying to replace JD Vance's current wife, Usha Vance, with Erika Kirk. That exact quote has been echoing all over the internet, sparking debate after debate. People are now watching every interaction between Erika and JD like detectives, zooming in on smiles, body language, and every subtle glance. Yeah, it sounds wild, but once you start lining up the details, the whole theory starts to make a bit too much sense. JD Vance checks every box for the traditional conservative image. Young, white, Christian, family man. His wife, Usha, is Hindu and Indian American, and while the two of them have always appeared strong and happy together, some corners of the far-right base have reportedly whispered that she doesn't fit the picture of what certain conservative groups want their public figures to look like. Now here comes Erika Kirk, young, photogenic, very publicly Christian, and suddenly one of the most visible women in conservative media. She's taken over one of the biggest right-wing organizations in the country, and conveniently or not, she's appearing everywhere with JD Vance lately. Conferences, charity dinners, press events. The two are often side by side, smiling for the cameras like a political power duo in the making. And here's where things get extra uncomfortable: the videos.
To mention how they're still trying to cover up her ties in Romania, which if you look at my previous video titled Charlie Kirk was betrayed, it gets pretty wild.
Multiple viral clips show JD and Erika together, but these aren't your average polite handshakes or casual hugs. Nope, we're talking close, intimate hugs, the kind that linger. In one clip, you can see his hand brushing through her hair. In another, his arm rests firmly around her waist. It's enough to make viewers pause mid-scroll. Another viewer said it straight up: this is not how a freshly widowed woman hugs a married man she's not related to. And honestly, they've got a point. Sure, we've all hugged friends for comfort, but when you watch those clips of Erika and JD Vance together, it doesn't look like a comforting, friendly hug. It looks intimate. It looks personal. There's emotion there that doesn't match the situation, and people can feel it through the screen. But then came the wildest moment of all, a video that had everyone's jaws dropping. Erika Kirk was giving a speech at a Turning Point USA event. She was introducing JD Vance to the stage, and during her introduction, she said something that stunned the crowd. She told the audience that JD Vance reminds her of Charlie, and that's where people collectively lost it online. Pause for a second. Your husband was just murdered less than a month ago, and you're on stage publicly comparing another man to him? The vice president, no less? That's not just unusual, and that's downright bizarre. The internet exploded with comments asking, why are you even saying that? Why are you up there smiling when you should still be mourning? To a lot of people, it doesn't sound like grief anymore. It sounds like Erika's already focused on the next chapter of her life. And maybe, just maybe, JD Vance is part of that chapter. Then, almost like clockwork, a resurfaced clip of JD Vance started circulating, one that added serious fuel to this theory. In it, a student asked JD about the religious differences between him and his wife, Usha, who's Hindu. His answer raised eyebrows across social media. JD said, "Do I hope eventually that she's somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved by? Church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it." That single comment reignited every rumor. People began connecting the dots. JD openly saying he wishes his wife shared his Christian faith, while suddenly spending more and more time with Erika Kirk, who is loudly and proudly Christian, a woman now leading one of the most influential Christian conservative groups in the country. And here's the eerie part. With Charlie Kirk suddenly out of the picture, the timing looks way too convenient for some. Erika's rise to power, JD's public longing for a Christian partner, and their newfound closeness are making people wonder if this is just coincidence or something a lot bigger and more orchestrated. All right, now let's pull every piece together, because once you see the full picture, it's honestly chilling. Charlie Kirk gets assassinated, and within just a few days, Erika Kirk isn't just his widow, she's suddenly the face of his entire empire. She's stepping into power, shaking hands with political giants, and locking in her position right at the top of the conservative world. Think about it. Erika now has direct access to some of the most powerful figures in American politics. She's side by side with the vice president. She's leading Turning Point USA, and she's being praised by big names across conservative media. That's a lot of power, and it all came immediately after Charlie's death. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you lay it out, it feels way too clean, way too fast. And then there's her behavior. She's not disappearing from the spotlight. She's not taking time off. Instead, she's everywhere. Polished, poised, and building her brand like a pro. Her interviews, her speeches, even her social media posts all have this controlled, carefully managed tone. It's like every smile, every word, every appearance is part of a plan. One viral TikTok said it best. Anyone who questions her gets silenced with Christian forgiveness. And that's exactly what seems to be happening. Erika keeps using that same phrase. Forgiveness, grace, healing. And while it sounds wholesome, critics say it's become her shield. If someone challenges her, she calls for forgiveness. If people ask hard questions, she preaches peace. It's brilliant PR, but it doesn't feel authentic. Here's where it gets even bigger. When you zoom out, the entire setup seems to align perfectly with a specific political image. Conservative Christian nationalists have long been searching for leaders who fit their ideal mold. Young, white, Christian, family-oriented, traditional values. JD Vance checks some of those boxes, but his wife, Usha, doesn't. She's Hindu, Indian American, and while that shouldn't matter in a modern movement, for certain powerful insiders, it does. Now look at Erika Kirk. She's everything that image represents. Young, photogenic, openly Christian, and fiercely conservative. She's positioned at the head of a massive political organization, and she's been consistently seen alongside JD Vance. When you combine those factors, it starts to look like a carefully crafted narrative. A new perfect couple waiting to be presented to the public. That's the oldest trick in the book. Make the story so confusing that nobody knows what's real anymore, and maybe that's exactly what's happening here. There's so much chaos, so many strange coincidences that people are starting to think the confusion isn't an accident. It's part of the plan. Now, here's where things take an unexpected turn. People online are digging into Erika Kirk's international ties. Some users claim she has connections to Romania, and whispers are spreading that certain information about those links is being quietly buried. Nobody's sure what's fact or rumor yet, but it's just one more piece that doesn't seem to fit. Every time you think you understand the story, another bizarre detail pops up that makes the whole thing even murkier. And as you can imagine, the internet is exploding. TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, everyone's got an opinion, and the theories just keep multiplying. There are entire threads breaking down Erika's body language frame by frame, analyzing every blink, every smile, every gesture. Some users are even creating side-by-side videos comparing her reactions to how other widows behaved in public after losing their partners, and the contrast is intense. Then there are the compilations, montages of her moments with JD Vance, all the hugs, glances, and whispers that people swear aren't just innocent. The internet is completely split over it. A few people are defending Erika, saying everyone grieves differently, give her space, but most aren't buying it. They're calling her behavior too polished, too rehearsed, and too strategic. One viral comment nailed what thousands of people are thinking. This isn't grief, this is PR. This is how they package a tragedy. And that line hit hard because it perfectly captures what's making people uneasy. The way sadness has been replaced with smiles, the way tragedy feels like it's being turned into branding. So let's break it all down one last time, because this story is absolutely wild. Joe Rogan isn't buying a single piece of the official story about Charlie Kirk's assassination, and honestly, who can blame him? The details don't line up. The so-called decoy guy has shown up at too many national tragedies to be a coincidence, and the whole thing feels like orchestrated chaos. Then there's Erika Kirk, the so-called grieving widow who doesn't seem to be grieving at all. Instead of mourning in private, she's out there smiling for cameras, giving speeches, hosting her late husband's podcast, and taking over his entire organization, all within days of his death. People can't stop asking why she looks more like a CEO rebranding a company than a wife in shock. And we can't ignore the strangest part, her sudden closeness with Vice President JD Vance. Those lingering hugs, those whispers, that eerie speech where she compared him to her husband. It's all just too much. The body language, the timing, the PR polish, every piece screams something's off. So now we're left asking the real questions. Was this just an unbelievable series of coincidences? Or was it something planned, something bigger? Maybe even the start of a new power image in conservative politics? Did Charlie Kirk's death clear the way for a new version of leadership? Young, Christian, perfectly photogenic, and ready to rally the base? And if that's true, is JD Vance part of that next chapter? We don't have all the answers, not yet. But one thing's for sure, something doesn't add up. Even Joe Rogan said it himself. It feels weird. The whole thing feels weird. And honestly, he's right. Every detail, every reaction, every headline, it all feels just a little too staged. So what do you think? Is Erika Kirk just coping in her own unusual way, or is she playing a major role in something way bigger than any of us realize? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to know what you believe. And don't forget, hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you want to stay on top of every update, because trust me, this story is far from over. When the next piece of the puzzle drops, we'll be right here to break it all down. Thanks for watching. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. Stay curious, stay sharp, and I'll see you on the next one.